Hello, future doctors. Welcome to Synapse, your ultimate NEET preparation platform. Today, we are diving deep into Class 11 Biology, Chapter Breathing and Exchange of Gases, focusing specifically on the exchange of gases. This topic is fundamental to understanding how our bodies acquire the oxygen needed for life and eliminate waste carbon dioxide. We'll start with the basics, then explore the intricate mechanisms, advanced concepts, and even some clinical applications. Get ready for an enlightening journey through 4 levels of understanding. Let's begin our journey with the easy level. We'll cover the fundamental concepts of gas exchange, making sure you grasp the core ideas before we move on. So, what exactly is gas exchange? Simply put, it's the vital process where your body takes in oxygen, which is essential for energy production, and releases carbon dioxide, a waste product of metabolism. Imagine your body as a car engine. It needs fresh fuel oxygen and must expel exhaust carbon dioxide. This continuous swapping ensures your cells get what they need to function. This exchange happens constantly, keeping you alive and energetic. Where does this crucial exchange take place? Primarily, it occurs in 2 main locations. First, in your lungs, specifically within tiny air sacs called alveoli. Here, oxygen from the air you breathe moves into your bloodstream, while carbon dioxide from your blood moves into the alveoli to be exhaled. Second, it happens in all the tissues throughout your body. Here, oxygen from your blood diffuses into your cells, and carbon dioxide produced by your cells diffuses into your blood to be carried back to the lungs. The amazing mechanism behind all this is called diffusion, where gases simply move from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. Now, let's test your understanding with a few practice questions. Take a moment to think about these. 1. What 2 gases are primarily exchanged in the human body? 2. Where does the primary exchange of gases occur in the lungs? And 3. What is the basic principle by which gases move across membranes during exchange? These questions will help solidify your grasp of the easy concepts. Alright, moving on to the medium level. Here, we'll explore the key factors that influence how efficiently gases are exchanged in your body. At the medium level, we delve into the factors that govern gas exchange. The first crucial factor is the partial pressure gradient. Each gas in a mixture, like the air we breathe, exerts its own pressure, known as partial pressure. Gases always diffuse from an area of higher partial pressure to an area of lower partial pressure. For example, in your lungs, the partial pressure of oxygen in the alveoli is higher than in your blood, so oxygen rushes into the blood. Conversely, carbon dioxide's partial pressure is higher in your blood than in the alveoli, so it moves out. This gradient is the primary driving force for gas exchange. Next, the solubility of gases plays a significant role. How easily a gas dissolves in a liquid, like blood plasma, directly impacts its diffusion rate. Interestingly, carbon dioxide is about 20 to 25 times more soluble than oxygen. This means CO2 can diffuse much faster across the same membrane, even with a smaller partial pressure difference, making its removal from the body highly efficient. The thickness of the diffusion membrane is another critical factor. This membrane, found in your alveoli, is incredibly thin, less than a millimeter thick, allowing for rapid diffusion. Any thickening due to disease can severely impair gas exchange. Lastly, the vast surface area of the diffusion membrane, about 90 to 100 square meters in your lungs, provides ample space for efficient gas exchange. Finally, adequate blood supply, or perfusion, is essential. For efficient gas exchange, the blood flowing through the pulmonary capillaries must be quickly saturated with oxygen and depleted of carbon dioxide. If there's poor blood flow to well-ventilated alveoli, gas exchange will be compromised. These 5 factors: partial pressure gradient, gas solubility, membrane thickness, surface area, and blood supply collectively determine the efficiency of gas exchange in your body. Understanding them is key to appreciating the complexity and precision of our respiratory system. Time for some medium-level practice questions. 1. Explain the concept of partial pressure in the context of gas exchange. 2. Why is carbon dioxide able to diffuse faster than oxygen, even with a smaller partial pressure gradient? 3. Name the three main layers that constitute the diffusion membrane in the alveoli. 4. How does the surface area of the alveoli contribute to efficient gas exchange? And 5. What would be the likely effect on gas exchange if the diffusion membrane thickened due to a medical condition? Think deeply about these to test your understanding. Now we step up to the hard level, where we'll explore the intricate mechanisms of gas transport and the body's sophisticated regulatory systems. At the hard level, we delve into how gases are transported and regulated. Oxygen transport is primarily carried out by hemoglobin, a protein in your red blood cells. About 97% of oxygen binds to hemoglobin, forming oxyhemoglobin, while the remaining 3% dissolves in plasma. The relationship between oxygen partial pressure and hemoglobin saturation is depicted by the oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve, a characteristic S-shaped graph. This curve reveals that hemoglobin efficiently picks up oxygen in the high PO2 environment of the lungs and readily releases it in the lower PO2 environment of the tissues. Several factors influence this binding affinity, collectively known as the Bohr effect. Increased carbon dioxide, higher hydrogen ion concentration or lower pH, elevated temperature, and higher levels of 2,3-BPG all shift the curve to the right, promoting oxygen release to the tissues where it's most needed. Carbon dioxide transport is equally fascinating and more complex. Approximately 70% of CO2 is transported as bicarbonate ions. Inside red blood cells, CO2 rapidly combines with water, catalyzed by the enzyme carbonic anhydrase, to form carbonic acid, which then dissociates into hydrogen ions and bicarbonate. 20 to 25% of CO2 binds directly to hemoglobin, forming carbaminohemoglobin, and about 7% dissolves in plasma. To maintain electrical neutrality when bicarbonate ions move out of red blood cells into the plasma, chloride ions move in a process known as the chloride shift. This mechanism is crucial for efficient CO2 transport. The Haldane effect further optimizes CO2 transport. Deoxygenated blood has a higher capacity to carry CO2, meaning that as oxygen is released in tissues, hemoglobin's affinity for CO2 increases, facilitating its uptake. Conversely, in the lungs, oxygen binding to hemoglobin reduces its affinity for CO2, promoting its release. Finally, the regulation of respiration ensures that these complex processes are precisely controlled. The respiratory rhythm center in the medulla oblongata sets the basic breathing rhythm. The pneumotaxic center in the pons modulates this rhythm, limiting inspiration and increasing the respiratory rate. A chemosensitive area near the rhythm center is highly sensitive to changes in carbon dioxide and hydrogen ion concentrations, stimulating increased breathing when these levels rise. Peripheral chemoreceptors in the aortic arch and carotid artery also monitor these levels, along with oxygen levels, providing feedback to the brain. These intricate neural and chemical controls ensure that gas exchange is always perfectly tuned to meet the body's metabolic demands, maintaining homeostasis. Let's tackle some hard-level practice questions. 1. Describe the oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve and explain what a right shift signifies. 2. List 3 factors that cause a right shift in the oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve and explain their physiological significance. 3. Compare and contrast the transport mechanisms of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood. 4. Explain the chloride shift and its importance in CO2 transport. 5. What is the Haldane effect, and how does it facilitate gas exchange in both tissues and lungs? 6. Identify the primary respiratory rhythm center and 2 other centers that modulate its activity. And 7. How do changes in PCO2 and H plus concentration affect the regulation of respiration? These questions demand a thorough understanding of the concepts discussed. Welcome to the hardest level, where we'll explore advanced concepts, clinical correlations, and competitive depth in gas exchange. Prepare to challenge your understanding and connect this topic to broader physiological and pathological contexts. At this most challenging level, we begin with ventilation perfusion, or VQ, matching. Optimal gas exchange relies on a precise balance between alveolar ventilation, which is the air reaching the alveoli, and pulmonary blood flow, the blood perfusing the capillaries around them. The ideal VQ ratio is approximately 0.8, meaning for every 4 liters of air, about 5 liters of blood pass through. A VQ mismatch occurs when this balance is disrupted, for instance, if ventilation is high but perfusion is low, as seen in a pulmonary embolism, leading to dead space ventilation. Conversely, if ventilation is low but perfusion is high, due to an airway obstruction, it creates shunt physiology. Both scenarios severely impair gas exchange, highlighting the critical importance of this delicate equilibrium. This concept is fundamental in understanding various respiratory pathologies. Next, let's revisit the role of carbonic anhydrase. This enzyme, found abundantly in red blood cells, is a biological marvel. It rapidly catalyzes the reversible conversion of carbon dioxide and water into carbonic acid, which then dissociates into bicarbonate and hydrogen ions. This rapid conversion is crucial for 2 reasons. Firstly, it allows for the efficient transport of CO2 as bicarbonate ions, which is the major form of CO2 transport in the blood. Secondly, by quickly converting CO2, it maintains a steep CO2 gradient between the tissues and the blood, and later between the blood and the alveoli, thus driving diffusion. Without this enzyme, CO2 transport would be significantly slower and less efficient, leading to dangerous CO2 buildup in the body. Furthermore, understanding the differences between fetal hemoglobin, or HbF, and adult hemoglobin, HbA, provides insight into adaptation. HbF exhibits a higher affinity for oxygen than HbA. This is a critical evolutionary adaptation that enables the fetus to efficiently extract oxygen from the mother's blood across the placenta, even though the mother's blood has a lower partial pressure of oxygen. This ensures adequate oxygenation for fetal growth and development, demonstrating a remarkable physiological fine-tuning for survival. Adaptations to high altitude present another fascinating case study. Upon initial ascent to high altitudes, the body responds with hyperventilation and increased breathing rate and depth to compensate for the lower atmospheric partial pressure of oxygen. Over time, a process called acclimatization occurs. The kidneys increase erythropoietin production, leading to a rise in red blood cell count, a condition known as polycythemia, which boosts oxygen carrying capacity. Levels of 2,3 BPG in red blood cells also increase, which shifts the oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve to the right, facilitating the release of oxygen to the tissues. There are also increases in tissue vascularity and cellular mitochondria, enhancing oxygen utilization. Understanding these adaptations is crucial for competitive exams. Respiratory disorders like emphysema, asthma, and pneumonia directly impact gas exchange. Emphysema damages alveolar walls, reducing the surface area for exchange, leading to chronic low oxygen and high carbon dioxide. Asthma involves airway inflammation and constriction, causing VQ mismatch. Pneumonia fills alveoli with fluid, thickening the diffusion membrane. Lastly, the bicarbonate buffer system is vital for pH regulation. This system, involving CO2, carbonic acid, and bicarbonate ions, is the most important blood buffer. The lungs regulate pH by altering CO2 excretion, while the kidneys excrete hydrogen ions and reabsorb bicarbonate. Imbalances lead to respiratory or metabolic acidosis-alkalosis, showcasing the integrated control of gas exchange and acid-base balance. The intricate interplay of these mechanisms underscores the robustness and adaptability of the human respiratory system. From the molecular level of carbonic anhydrase to the systemic adaptations for high altitude, each component plays a vital role in maintaining the delicate balance required for life. The clinical implications of disruptions in VQ matching or hemoglobin function are profound, leading to various respiratory disorders that challenge the body's ability to sustain life. Recognizing these connections is key to mastering this chapter for NEET and beyond. The legacy of understanding gas exchange extends from basic physiological research to advanced critical care medicine, influencing treatments for conditions ranging from high-altitude sickness to severe lung diseases. This topic truly bridges fundamental biology with practical medical applications, showcasing the deep relevance of your studies. Let's test your advanced knowledge with the first set of hardest level questions. 1. Elaborate on the concept of ventilation perfusion matching and discuss the physiological consequences of a VQ mismatch. 2. Explain the crucial role of carbonic anhydrase in facilitating carbon dioxide transport and maintaining pH balance. 3. Compare the oxygen binding characteristics of fetal hemoglobin and adult hemoglobin, explaining the evolutionary advantage of fetal hemoglobin. 4. Describe the short-term and long-term physiological adaptations observed in individuals acclimatizing to high altitudes. And 5. How do conditions like emphysema and pneumonia specifically impair the efficiency of gas exchange at the alveolar level? These questions require a comprehensive and analytical approach. Here are the remaining hardest level questions. 6. Discuss how the bicarbonate buffer system, involving both the respiratory and renal systems, regulates blood pH. 7. A patient presents with a PO2 of 60 mmHg and a PCO2 of 55 mmHg. What type of respiratory disorder might be suspected, and how does this affect gas exchange? 8. Explain how the Bohr effect and Haldane effect work synergistically to optimize gas exchange in both the systemic tissues and the pulmonary capillaries. 9. What is the significance of the very thin diffusion membrane in the alveoli, and what would be the clinical implications if this thickness significantly increased? And 10. Detail the complete pathway of a CO2 molecule from a metabolically active tissue cell until its expulsion from the body, highlighting the key chemical transformations and transport mechanisms. Good luck! That brings us to the end of our deep dive into the exchange of gases. We've covered everything from the basic principles of diffusion to the complex regulatory mechanisms and clinical applications. We hope this journey has been insightful and has strengthened your understanding for NEET. For more such comprehensive educational content, practice questions, and personalized learning experiences, visit our website at synapse.omaps.in. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for regular updates and more engaging lessons. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing towards your NEET goals. See you in the next session.